skies were turning gray. Let's not forget how together we blew away the clouds to let the sun shine through.
The conference of the Big Three is over. It was held in the Crimea. Decisions were agreed on final victory, the occupation and control of Germany, and a world organization for keeping the peace. At 9:30 last night, Britain, America, and Russia broadcast a statement by the Big Three conference on its work of the past 8 days.
All the girls are crazy about a certain little lad. Although he's very, very bad, he could be also good when he wants to. Better good, he understood about
The songs were still cheerful, but as 1945 dawned, everyone was heartily weary of the war. After 5 years, the only wish was for it to end.
I think you got very despondent sometimes, you know, when you read the paper and you found out that there'd been a push somewhere that hadn't come off, or we'd been pushed back from where we'd got to. You did get very despondent then, and then perhaps something else turned up. You'd heard that we'd done something and you sort of felt a bit better about it. But I don't think anybody really thought it was going to last as long as it did.
At home, conditions, far from improving, got worse. The government concentrated its resources on the huge Allied army pushing its way towards Germany. The countries liberated in the advance were in a state of collapse. Britain now had to help feed Europe as well as itself, and rationing would continue long after the war ended. At Chiltern Gardens, Harry Dodson and Landgirl Annie let nothing go to waste.
What variety did you say it was?
This is the old flower of spring.
Right.
It's been around ever since I can remember.
The government renewed its efforts to get people to save fuel, even to the extent of showing them how to cook a cabbage. One suggested way of saving fuel was to cook everything together. Ruth Mott uses a steamer to prepare a complete meal. The meat pudding goes in first, as this takes the longest to cook. Meanwhile, the vegetables are put into muslin bags to go in the pot when the time is right. Second to go in are the potatoes, secured to the lid of the steamer. Any saving was important, as the winter was marked by the worst fuel shortage of the war. Coal production had gone down, despite a massive recruitment drive for the mines, including conscription of 17-year-olds. And what coal there was badly distributed. The great trick in using a steamer is to judge the different cooking times each item needs. Only then will everything be ready together.
I think those potatoes must be nearly done now, so we'll put these other vegetables in. You come give me a hand at the stove. And then you hang on to that plate then. You got hold of that tight?
Yes.
Because it'll be heavy. All right?
Oh, it is heavy, isn't it?
Yep.
The gravy and the two veg join the meat pudding and the potatoes for the final period of cooking.
So this is our trial run today and see how it works.
It's a good idea, isn't it?
Oh, it's quite a good idea. I don't see why it shouldn't work. It's just the question of getting it all worked out in your mind as to how long it's going to take to cook.
It wasn't just people who were weary by 1945. Garden soil had been under relentless pressure to grow more and more, and often became heavily infected with pests and weeds. One way of revitalising it, before using it for sowing seeds, was to sterilise it with steam.
Well, that's it. It's about its level now, and it'll take roughly about an hour for the steam to come right through. On no account stick your fingers in to see how warm it's getting, because that's highly dangerous. When you see the steam really coming through around the edges and the middle, it pays you to put the shovel in and just turn the top over, as if you were sort of digging the top. Put the top back on again for about another 10 minutes or so, and by then it should be cooked. And by that time, it will have killed off all the harmful bacteria, and it will kill off all the weed seed, which is very important.
Spring brought good news. At the end of March, the Allied armies crossed the Rhine. German resistance started to crumble. Ruth plans a treat.
Pick your elderflowers on a nice dry day. You find them everywhere because the birds carry them and drop them, and then they grow in the crevices of your garden path or behind the stones, so you're constantly pulling them out. Give them a wash, just quickly under the tap, and then dab them dry, and then just pick off the little flowers or nip them off with the scissors and pop them into your batter. They've got quite a strong taste. That the main thing to do, I think, is not to put too many in. I think they're better under-flavoured than over-flavoured, because they are very strong. As you know, if you go down the road and you can smell elderflowers long before you get to them.
The batter Ruth has made is a mixture of flour and dried household milk. As it's a special occasion, she's allowed herself the luxury of using a fresh egg. Delicacies like this were rare in wartime Britain. After the war, as the food situation got worse, Patsy appeared to help young mothers cope. One of her missions was to break down the suspicion that greeted new arrivals at the butcher's. Whale meat, it was claimed, tasted like beef, but few believed it.
There you are, Mrs. Mott. There's a rabbit for you.
Oh, that's good. Oh, it's a nice little harvest rabbit. You come round here and I'll show you how to skin it, because I don't expect you've skinned a rabbit before, have you?
No.
You take hold of the leg and push. Rabbit was very popular because A, it was off the ration, and B, it was very cheap. I mean, they were only about £1 each, so that if you could find someone to bring you one at that price, you've got a cheap meal for 4 people at least. And pull the rest of this skin down, and eventually his foot will fly out. With a bit of luck.
There's quite a skill to it, isn't there?
Well, it's quite hard to get used to doing them.
As an alternative to meat, the government recommended pulses as a source of bodybuilding protein. Harry plants haricot beans at Chiltern. They're a difficult crop to grow in Britain, as they require long periods of sunshine for the pods to mature. Once they go a golden yellow, the whole plant is harvested and hung up to dry in an airy greenhouse. The beans harden, the pods are shelled, and the pulses packaged for market. Nowadays, haricots are more likely to come from a tin as baked beans in tomato sauce.
The dreams don't come true? Who said that skies aren't blue? Who said the wishes...
Ruth has got her dried beans from the grocer's. Having soaked and boiled them, she has enough for 2 meals. Nearly 6 years of war taught people many things, but one lesson few forgot was never throw anything away.
Well, I think you've learnt to be very economical, really, and waste nothing. I mean, where you'd probably thrown something out before, you threw nothing out. You found another use for it of some sort. But I worry today when I go around supermarkets and see people throwing things in trolleys, or you think, gosh, you know, if you'd have lived in the war, whatever would you have done?
Joyce!
I know for certain they do.
That smells good.
Yes. Some nice haricots that we've got. We won't want any potatoes then.
They're going to fill us up, are they?
Oh yes, they'll fill you up all right.
With victory close, many of the wartime regulations now began to seem petty. Frustration showed itself in an increasing readiness to deal with the black market.
Morning, John.
Morning, Harry.
You've got a nice morning?
Yeah, it's a bit better than yesterday, isn't it? What do you got for me today, then?
Well, quite a load, really. It's all this lot under the wall.
Good.
There's no doubt black market did come into it from time to time. I mean, that human nature being what it is, it's always bound to come in. And I don't doubt if you had a crop and it was only a very poor crop and you knew Mrs. So-and-so could handle pretty well what you've got and she was going to pay a bit over the odds, yes, no doubt it was slip through. Oh, well done, Annie. Nice to see you arrive. You know how to get this loaded up now, then. You don't want to keep this lorry hanging about here all day.
Morning, Annie.
If you'd got something that you'd got a surplus of and somebody else wanted it, you swapped it. I mean, you learnt to bargain in the war, I think. You know, probably you let somebody have a bit of marge for a few clothing coupons or something like that. I think there was a lot went shuffling about underneath during the wartime. It's a sort of a species of black market. Anything that shuffles along under cover is a sort of a black market thing. I mean, things used to fall off the back of lorries. That's where that expression came from.
Good. That's a good load.
We'll see you next week.
Good, great. Yeah. Nice to see you both, mate. See you. Bye. Bye.
Now we're breaking into our programs for the second time tonight, this time with some splendid news from Moscow. Berlin has fallen. Marshal Stalin has just announced the complete capture of the capital of Germany, the center of German imperialism, and the cradle of German aggression.
In view of this fact, tomorrow, Tuesday, will be treated as Victory in Europe Day and will be regarded as a holiday.
As a tailpiece to Victory Day, we give you Britain's weather on the day that it happened. That's something you haven't heard about since the war began. Victory Day started with violent rainstorms in many districts, but most of the time it's been sunny and very warm.
No one could forget that the war against Japan continued, but those who had borne the hardships of the home front joined together for a moment to celebrate victory in Europe.
There's also news today of a long-lost friend, the Large Depression. It's turned up again between Ireland and the Azores, where it's reported at the moment to be almost stationary.
We're going to have some celebrations tonight, so we're going to make some sandwiches. But being as we've used our fresh egg for the cake, which seemed a much more sensible thing to do, we're going to make up this dried egg according to the Ministry of Food leaflet with this curry and egg filling. So we're going to try that and see how it works. It doesn't work too well. It won't be ours, it'll be somebody else's down the road. We shan't own it. I shan't put in quite as much curry as they say, because the children will be going to have it as well, and they don't like too much curry. And then we're going to put it into the frying pan with the margarine and the spring onions, which I'm going to use because they are a milder flavour. It says onion, but you can adapt it to suit yourself.
That's a welcome sound, Annie. It's lovely. It's a long time since we heard those bells.
It's lovely, isn't it? I'm really looking forward to it. I think I might put my hair up.
What, again? It's another night for the pipe cleaners, is it?
Yes. Well, it's been a long time since I put it up. The last time was the dance.
Well, that should make a change. People won't recognise you, will they?
That's what I'm hoping.
I know if you've had a good time by the time you get in.
You're nosy.
More than likely. I'm not alone, that's a certain sure thing. It's nearly 3 o'clock, so Winnie's going to speak again. So could you just turn that up a bit, because we don't want to miss anything. Lovely to hear Big Ben.
Brings me up in goosebumps.
At 2:41 a.m. at General Eisenhower's headquarters, General Jodl, the representative of the German High Command, and of Grand Admiral Dönitz, the designated head of the German state, signed the act of unconditional surrender of all German land, sea, and air forces in Europe, to the Allies.
Shine on, victory moon, and guide our loved ones home. Shine on, victory moon, across the silvery foam. Patiently we're waiting down Rainbow Lane to greet our dear ones back home again.
Then we got this bottled wine for the competition tonight. I think that looks quite nice. It's lovely and clear, so we'll see. And I brought you a rosette to wear.
They're pretty.
They are, aren't they? Lovely. I expect there'll be a lot more there tonight as well as ours. Just take my pinafore because I should sure have want it before the night's out. I always do end up in the kitchen, although I intend not to. Lights, radio. Because we should be late home for sure.
When we look back now, 2 years gone by, to a dark and stormy sky, do you remember how we survived? Come rain or shine, it turned out fine. Though the memories are fading of those days so long ago,